Welcome to Take Your Points. I'm Ronan Scott. This week it's Ulster Championship final weekend. Cavan are playing Donegal and Gerard O'Kane's here to talk about how you think it's going to go. And I think your column this week, Gerard's about the Ulster final. I presume Donegal victory, is that what you think?
Yeah, well, I've sort of done a bit of a preview on the match itself. And I suppose the head's rule and the heart in this one that may finish in line would just be Donegal by 3 or more. I just think that this being their 8th final in 9 years, they have the experience, they have the players available. If you match the two sides up, really, when it comes down to it, in the simplest form, Donegal have better players. They probably have more players in what you would call the All-Star, the top bracket, than Cavan do. And given that, I just think there's maybe a wee bit too much power for them, a wee bit too much experience all through the field.
Cavan beat Donegal in under-21s finals as it was then, back in 2012, 2013. Do you think that'll help, or will that matter at all?
I don't think it'll matter as much to Donegal on Sunday. I think it might help Cavan a wee bit that they have that experience of doing it, and it'll probably be refreshed in them during the week. Look, this is nothing new. We've beat this same group of players. Maybe a lot of them played in that under-21 final in 12 and 13, and we've been here before with them and we've proved we can beat them in finals. For Donegal, I don't think it might matter as much, because I just think they've been through the mill that much in terms of the senior football they've played in the last 6 or 7 years, that an under-21 final would be far removed from them, whereas that would mean a lot more to Cavan because they haven't maybe done as much or they haven't experienced as much since then.
Yeah. Could we be reading too much into Donegal's performance against Tyrone in their lead up to it, or are they just as good as they look?
I think Donegal are just as good as they look. In terms of what you call the chasing pack, I think even by not playing yesterday, they've maybe crept up another notch or two to be maybe second or maybe third behind Dublin. But looking at this Donegal side, I think that they're very, very astute all over the field, and they have players that can play multiple positions. Granted, Tyrone were poor and they only beat Tyrone before, so going into the 70th minute, there was 3 points in it, 1 kick of the ball. But I think Donegal are a team like that they never seem to overwhelm teams and beat them out the gate. Once Donegal get you to 4 or 5 points, I think they can comfortably keep you there, and they were comfortably keeping Tyrone to 4 or 5 points. And I think the word of 4 point stuffing would have been more apt in terms of it being a tight game. But I think Donegal is very, very good at getting a team within 4 or 5 points and just keeping them there the way more akin to what a boxer would do, just jabbing away. If you get a score, they'll race up the field and get one within the next 2 or 3 attacks and just keep that margin through. They very rarely beat a team by 9, 10, 11 points. They don't seem to want or need to feel the way Kerry have to kick on sometimes, or Dublin always kick on when they get to 14, 15. Donegal don't seem to do that, but I think it's well within their makeup just to comfortably control a game at 4 or 5.
If Cavan have a chance, what do they have to do?
They probably have to set the tone early. Donegal set the tone early against Tyrone. Once they went 3 or 4 ahead, it was making it doubly hard for Tyrone to get back into the game, because they can retreat into their shell a wee bit and invite Tyrone on. I think if Cavan are going to let Donegal dictate the game on their terms and get 3, 4 ahead, I think it'll stay that way the whole game. Cavan probably have to take the lead early, but in doing that they might have to get a goal. Now, they've only hit 1 goal in their 3 games in Ulster Championship so far, and bear in mind they played an Armagh team that are quite open at the back and they like to leave space at the back, so how they're going to fashion a goal chance or 2 against Donegal I think will be very difficult. But I think they have to get the lead early on and try and play it in the front foot from there. But they'll have to change tactics during the game, similar to what Derry didn't do against Tyrone. Against Tyrone, Derry pushed the kickouts, and it finally paid off. And once they got in front in the 62nd or 63rd minute, it was pushing the kickouts that outdone Derry. If they had retreated on that kickout and let Tyrone take the kickout instead of one kickout beating them all. So I think once Cavan, if they can get in front, they have to play the game in their own terms. Then once they do that, you can use the old adage, why change what's working for you? But I think if they do that, they'll leave space at the back, because they've done it again Armagh. They left 2 or 3 goal chances, and only it fell to Mark Shields against Armagh, who had 2 gilt-edged goal chances Jamie Clark missed what would be him a rather simple chance. I couldn't see Donegal missing 3 or 4 of them. So I think we have to get in front and then change tactics once to do that, which is difficult during a game, because once you're in the flow of a game and you're going that way, you say, right, we'll keep doing it. But I think the more, if they do get in front and keep doing that, it could be the undoing of them as well.
Okay. So Donegal win expected, but Cavan have things to do. They need to win. It should be an interesting final, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll be chatting this time, fortnight's time, about how it went. But thanks so much for your time, Gerard. Thank you.
No problem. Grand.
So this week we have Chris Kerr as our guest. Chris is former Antrim player and current St Gall's player. But we wanted to start by talking to you about, Chris, about your last year you spoke about your issues with mental health, and you wrote a blog about the mental health, and then off the back of that blog you were asked by the GPA to be an ambassador for it. Could you tell us a little bit about that and what the reaction's been about that since then?
My dad passed away in 2013, so I was sort of hemming and hawing about it for a long time, you know, whether it was always, I'm from West Belfast, so and a strong connection with North Belfast, playing soccer over the years for Newington. So I felt that all I was ever reading about was suicides in young men, and I felt that if I could share my sort of experiences, and if that could help one person, or it could help people to go and get help themselves, then that was my idea behind it. So the GPA helped me out. They put it out on their platforms, or their website, their social media forums, and the reaction was unreal. It was more probably, you sort of expect your friends or teammates to be like, you know, supportive, but I think when it goes further, you know, countrywide, you know, players from all over the country that I've never met before were getting in contact. The referee from the rugby, Nigel Owens, who had dealt with his own mental health problems, got in touch. So I think when it goes that far, and you know, most people, it'll come to somebody's door at some stage. So I think most people can relate to it and are quite, you know, supportive of it.
Do you think it's an issue that's maybe not looked at enough in the GAA? You know, is that something that, obviously, why the GPA are getting involved?
The GPA are obviously the players' body, so they always have the players' interest at heart. You know, they do great work. You know, probably, you know, I wouldn't know where it would be if it wasn't for them and their services. You know, initially it was their counselling services. You know, and it's not just with grief. You know, there's, you know, for people struggling with gambling problems, alcohol problems, that is very prominent. Financial problems, relationship problems, you know, normal problems that a lot of people have. They're very supportive of the players. I think it's getting better. Most clubs now will have health and wellbeing officers. There's a lot more nights, and gradually people are starting to speak more about it. And I think with, you know, sometimes social media can get a bad light, but I think social media is quite good at driving that message too. You know, people don't have to lift up a phone or go and see a professional straight away. They can read things online. They can click into blogs if they're on the bus or train going to work or from work. So I think they're doing a lot of good work there in promoting it. And what work are you doing at the moment? Are you proactively doing helping people, or not proactive? I'm not going to. You know, I would love to give more time to it. I think with now I've stopped playing with Antrim, I've been able to attend more things like the likes of schools, clubs. You know, last October the GPA asked me to go to Brussels in European Parliament to speak, which was a great experience too. With all delegates around Europe. There's no Brexit talk, or there was no border talks, thank God, and I think they maybe panicked when they heard someone from West Belfast was coming the European Parliament. But no, it's been very good, and anytime I'm asked to do it, I'll go, you know. Being from West Belfast, that is an area that has a lot of issues with suicide and mental health problems. Would that be fair to say? Yeah, definitely. It has been the last number of years. I know there's a lot of charities and groups doing great work on the ground. I think having, you know, not having a sitting assembly doesn't help them either. I think the sooner that gets sorted, that they can, you know, put more money and resources into it. So yeah, West and North Belfast in particular have always been, you know, badly hit.
You were mentioned there that about retirement from county football. How have you dealt with the retirement? Do you miss playing, or how do you feel about it now?
Yeah, you'll always miss playing. I've always said to people, playing's the easy part, and not in a sort of way that you're that good, but that's the easy bit, is putting on your gear and going and playing. I think it's the other side of it, the travelling alone, the every night of the week you're at something, you're 5-6 nights a week the way it's went, whilst trying to work as well and fit other commitments in. I think it's the bit that's not really enjoyable. But the playing, you'll never replace that buzz of playing those big games. Whether it's league or championship, I love playing every game. I suppose missing it, the way it sort of happened was, I got injured after the Down match and was injured and never really heard back from the management team. So I just took it upon myself just to sort of doing it on my own terms. Wanted to go out playing, and I'd played over 100 times. Never won anything with Antrim, but I was captain of the county. I was the first goalkeeper to score for the county, and played in a lot of big games, and had a load of good days as well. With I know Antrim GA in the past has got a bit of bad light, but there were some really good times too.
But what times do you enjoy the most?
Probably, first of all, just playing, getting that opportunity to play against top players, in Ulster and across the country, that you would never be given that chance playing for the club, really, unless you're at the top end of it. Playing against Galway, we beat Galway in a qualifier in one of the last games in Casement. They had a really strong team: Michael Meehan, Padraig Joyce, Sean Armstrong, all playing, Gary Sayce. We kicked the last minute winner. I think playing at Laois in qualifier 2012. We're 9 down at half time. There's a whole rigmarole before the game. There's three St Gall's players dropped before the game because of a hurling game on the Friday night, the relegation battle. So to come back and win that game, and it was one of the best games I played in. I think in the space of 45 seconds I'd kicked a point and then saved a penalty, so it was always one that stuck out.
How did you find dealing with that St Gall's Antrim challenge? And because they're two big priorities. St Gall's are winning a lot, and Antrim, you felt like you had to give the time to them. Yeah. So it's a clash.
I always felt it was a privilege, to represent St Gall's at that level, and for even opposing teams to look at a programme and be like, there's an Antrim team with 5 or 6 St Gall's players in it. Considering what St Gall's done during that stage on the provincial and All Ireland series, I always thought that. But I love playing for both. As I say, it was the games were the easy part. Playing was the easy part. Again, I'm 32. A lot of people were saying to me that I was probably too young to stop, and if probably circumstances had been different, I probably would have continued playing. I think now you hear of even comments, and during the Tyrone and Antrim game was that St Gall's and Corrigan don't play or didn't send their players, which a lot of those boys have given 10, 12, 13 years previous to playing. So at no stage did St Gall's players say no. So I think when you've given 10, 11 years, I started in 2007, and then you hear those sort of sweeping comments, it's a bit frustrating, but a bit annoying too. So
the criticism of St Gall's not putting players forward for Antrim isn't true. It never happened.
It's you look back in championship panels, league panels. It's always been present with St Gall's, and I'm not speaking on behalf of St Gall's or Corrigan, but those boys were the same. They all play, but most of them players from both clubs now are in their 30s. So the dynamics change. There's boys there with children, wives, like myself, getting married and stuff. So I think those comments were probably incorrect during the game, which was frustrating, because I was kicking every ball for Antrim, and then out of the blue during the commentary it's just mentioned that they don't send their players, and you're like, well, for 10, 11 years we were all there. So I think that's just frustrating.
Disrespectful, perhaps?
I think it is. I think it's, I just think it's sort of nearly lazy journalism of making those comments, instead of looking at the You know, the facts. Lenny wanted a team of young lads that fit a certain profile of the way he wants to play and X, Y, and Z. I think it is. You know, you've seen them boys playing from, you know, from the early 2000s right up until, you know, last year as well. So I think it is a bit disrespectful.
Any regrets? Anything you would have liked to do differently?
Probably would have liked to have played longer. You know, probably would have liked to have started earlier too. You know, wouldn't say any real regrets. You know, everything I'd done, I was stuck by it, and you know, I enjoyed every minute of it.
And the high point is the St Gall's success?
St Gall, playing for your clubs, obviously, you know, you're playing with all your friends from no age. We've been lucky; we're all very close and good friends as well. So I think winning championships with St Gall's over the years, you know, and having those big days out and those memories, we're always, you know, at the top. Hopefully, there's a few more to come.
Chris, that's great. Thanks for your time.
Yes, no problem. It's good.
Gerard is still here with us, and so is Chris, and we're going to speak first about the issue of Corrigan Park, because it's been in the news recently. Antrim playing their home advantage against Kildare this weekend. How important do you think this is? Is it a positive thing that they're getting home advantage, or is it more negatives that they should really be playing in Casement Park? What's your take, you know, because that's your part of the world?
First of all, it's good to actually see them get a home game. In terms of actually being a positive, don't know, at the end of the day, you know, you could put so much pressure on yourself that, you know, even social media, White Rock or nowhere, the same sort of thing as Kildare last year. In terms of your normal sort of county ground, there's no stand, it's very open to the elements. You know, Kildare will not, maybe, you know, they could use that to their advantage. In terms of Casement, I don't know how much of a positive it would have been, like in recent years of playing there. I know there was a whole sort of heightened sort of talk before the Tyrone game. There's no home ground, not playing in Casement, but if anything, I nearly thought it was a plus playing the athletic grounds. It's a lot more narrow than Casement. Casement was a monster of a pitch, width and length. So I think in terms of defending against Tyrone and Division 1 teams, I think athletic grounds was, you know, a good choice as opposed to playing on a bigger pitch.
Isn't that frustrating for you though, that Antrim have only ever had one main ground? Like, where are these extra grounds that, you know, the likes of Derry have Wombeg and at Celtic Park, and there's plenty of grounds in Tyrone? Like, it's frustrating. It'd be frustrating for me that there's no secondary ground. You know, Corrigan can only hold a couple of thousand.
Absolutely. I think it's been the case for years. So it's sort of, you get past the frustration. It just nearly becomes the norm, where it's and we're light years behind different counties, you know, the likes of Derry, Tyrone, that have their second, third grounds that can hold county games. The frustration, you nearly sense that from the current team, is that, you know, having to go to Armagh as opposed to having another ground, you know, a Corrigan done up, or a Ballycastle or a Corrigan, Toonbridge being done up, the county standard. So I think in terms of that, it's frustrating, but it's become the norm.
From the outsider, Gerard, what's your take on the whole Antrim issue that's been rumbling on for the past couple of months?
I suppose it's been talked over and over and out at this point in terms of the whole Casement thing, but I think it was really a poor decision to close the gates on it before the planning was granted, with all the red tape, with all the boxes ticked for the new stadium that was going to redevelop it, you know, and then once it did close, it fell into such a dilapidated state they probably couldn't open it again. You know, and from an outsider looking in, like, I had always a great time for Casement. Ask anybody from North County that played on, great pitch to play on. Going into Casement, you know, especially for Derry people, it wasn't that far away, just up the motorway. You know, we used to have great times playing on it. You know, when I had played on it a lot from as a schoolboy, I have fond memories of it. And I think it is quite poor for Antrim that they can't get a home ground like that. And if you drive up the Falls Road and you even take a look in, you can see the state that it's in. I'm not sure what the status is with the grounds down the county, and that Ballycastle and Dunloy can hold hurling games which take reasonably big crowds, so I'm not sure if they have passed some sort of county ground standard, or maybe it's different for a Joe McDonagh game or a Christy Ring game, but surely there's bound to be another stadium within Antrim that with very little work could get the standard up to it needed to hold a decent county game.
Yeah. There's a lot of county games on this weekend. Any upsets, do you think? Can you see anything on the horizon, or do you think it's all going to go as is, or which game are you most looking forward to seeing?
I'm actually looking forward to the Ulster final. I think it'll be a good game. With regard to the Leinster final, I think going down the home straight, I'd imagine Dublin will be maybe 7 or 8 or 9 points to the good against Meath. Whereas you compare that to the Ulster final, I think when you come into the last 10, by virtue of the way Donegal play, if they are leading, I think they'll only be 3 or 4 ahead. And if Cavan's leading, I think they'll only be 3 or 4 ahead, because that's all they could get ahead of Donegal. So it'll be a type of game where when you come down the home stretch, there'll still be a kick of the ball between it, which keeps it interesting, similar to what the Connacht final was. Whereas I think if you're looking at maybe the other 2 provincial finals, I think they could be done and dusted by the 55th, 60th minute. Whereas the Ulster final will be more interesting from that perspective. Cavan like to play an open brand of football, so they'll probably maybe go at Donegal. That's the way they've played all year, only maybe with a change of personnel. Donegal would maybe suss them out a bit more. They're not as open. They like to get ahead and then sort of retreat back into their shell. But I'm hoping now for a good open game of football. It'll be my first final since I played in one in 2011, since it was that. So it'll be good to go as a spectator and sort of take in the day that it is. Hopefully it's decent weather. You can take a walk around Clonus first, and I think with the middle of last week, most tickets were sold out. So I'd imagine they'll bring a good atmosphere to it.
The Ulster final is another reason for, it's one of the arguments that provincial competitions should stay, unlike the Leinster and the Munster competitions. But at the weekend we saw Roscommon, another great victory there for the underdog, I suppose. What's your thoughts, and how are you looking forward to this Ulster final, and do you think, where do you fall on that side of argument of provincial championships?
Definitely, I think we're lucky that we're probably the best in terms of the football championships, most competitive. I think this year's been, the games have all, it's been really good. I think there's only been 1 or 2, maybe Tyrone against Antrim was the only really big scoreline. Cavan taking Armada, replay. Fermanagh holding Donegal scoreless for 15 to 20 minutes first half, and then Donegal having to work themselves into it. And then the last day, Donegal against Tyrone were exceptional. They went into that as underdogs, and they caught Tyrone on the hop, and it was only 3 or 4 points, but it was a comfortable 3 to 4 points.
Yeah. Anniversary of the Antrim's appearance in the Ulster final. Like, it is a great day for the smaller teams can get to the Ulster final. It's still possible, even though there's strong teams up here.
Absolutely. It's just there's Cavan avoided, basically Tyrone, Monaghan and Donegal to now. So if you get a bit of momentum, there's no reason why one of the so-called smaller teams, and I say that Cavan are far from a small team. I think they'll give Donegal their fill of it. I've been really impressed with them, especially, I wouldn't be well renowned for my finishing, but in terms of their finishing, very composed. McVitie, Murray and McKiernan, all very, they make sure that they're taking the right shot, and I think it'll be a good game.
Of the qualifiers matches, do you see any upsets there? Do you think can Antrim do it against Kildare, or do you see?
Notoriously, Antrim have always been a qualifier team. We beat Galway in a qualifier in 2012 under, Baker. We beat Laois. We were 9 down at half time, came back and beat Laois. So I think Antrim usually go in. They're going in as underdogs against Kildare. Big pressure on Cian O'Neill. So the pressure's on Kildare to perform really, and so-called put Antrim to a sword. But the Antrim boys will be buzzing after beating Louth, especially down there, 6-7 points down at a stage 2. So it'll be a decent game. I'm looking forward to the Monaghan game, Monaghan against Armagh. Don't think either teams really know where they are. The worrying thing for Armagh is that McManus hasn't really caught fire yet. I know you don't get that chance against Fermanagh, but it's going to come. Someone of his quality is going to come, and I'm sure Armagh are hoping it's not at the weekend.
What do you think of that Armagh-Monaghan game, Gerard?
I've been impressed with Armagh all through the year and with their championship so far. Monaghan, I'm not saying it's one or bust under Malachy O'Rourke, but they seem to be a team that's sort of teetering, that they're sort of they've hit a plateau maybe. I don't know if they've hit their glass ceiling or not, and Darren Hughes is out. Obviously he's been out all year, he's not going to be back now. I think that once they miss 1 or 2 players, they're maybe not the team that we maybe thought they were. Again, there's only so much that you can do to get your team to a certain point, and I think Malachy's maybe done that with them. You know, I'm not saying he's overachieved because they've been playing Division 1 football consistently the last 5-6 years, but he has got every ounce out of them players, and trying to do it again and again is difficult, whereas I think Armagh's in a different place. Armagh have been playing reasonably well this year. If they could maybe shore up their defence a wee bit, you know, they conceded not 23 against Cavan the last day, which is massive scoring. You know, 23 different scores is a score every 2.5 minutes. But I think if they can sort that out, I would probably get Armagh to take them. Of the other games, I'm actually expecting Derry to beat Laois. I don't know what way the bookies have it in terms of favourites or not, but Laois got to Division 3 final, Derry got to Division 4 final. If you're looking at it from that outset, Laois should be one of it, but I think people sort of forget the fact that it's easy being a naysayer that Derry played them 2 league campaigns without 7 St Neil players. Had Laois been playing Tyrone, I don't think Laois would have pushed Tyrone the way Derry did. Had Laois been playing Wexford, I don't think Laois would have beat them by 18 points either. I think Derry have a lot more to give in this championship, and if they do get over Laois, I think they'll be one of the teams all teams want to draw.
Yeah. All right, guys, thanks very much. Appreciate your thoughts and opinions. I look forward to chatting again.
No problem.
Well, thanks for watching. Join us again next time.